All right, let's jump right into it. This is the graph that you saw from that thumbnail. Now, what you're looking at here are the results of a US survey that shows how often people are having sex, like casual sex, outside of an exclusive relationship. And it's broken down by race. And what you can see by these blue bars here is that basically, regardless of ethnicity, men are having more casual sex than women are. You know, casual sex seems to be a man's domain. You know, it's a man's preference. And that's true across the board, except here you can see that East Asian women are having more casual sex than East Asian men are. That actually doesn't surprise me. I've covered this before. If you haven't seen my video on the specific difficulties that Asian men face in Western dating markets, I highly recommend you check that out. But overall, men are more into casual sex. Now, this shouldn't surprise us. This is rooted in evolution. Men have millions of sperm, being produced every single day. Women have one egg. Men can basically have sex and impregnate women consequence-free. Morally, if he's a scumbag, he can just sleep around as much as he wants, whereas a woman doesn't have that kind of freedom. She has to go through the pregnancy and raise the child. So the consequences are vastly different, which is why men and women have different sexual strategies, why, their attitudes around casual sex are different. But the reason why that graph is so much more worrying than most men actually understand is because they don't see the link between their biological impulses and how much further they're drifting away from happiness. This might be a revelation for some people listening, but what I'm about to say is an absolute fact. Your sexual impulses, strong as they are, as difficult to resist as they are not actually designed to make you happy. That's not their purpose. It's just a biological impulse towards reproduction. Your genes want to get passed on. They're selfish in that way. They don't really care if you as an individual are happy. Of course, you're designed to think that satisfying your biological urges is going to make you happy, but that's part of the trick. That's part of the incentive mechanism that gets you to take that particular action. And this is why if you, watching this, you want to be happy, you actually need to be suspicious of your masculine impulses. There is a male fantasy of happiness out there that so many men have bought into, and the results are just devastating. So think about the sort of things that typically appeal to men. Like think about the kind of things we like to watch on TV. We might want to watch like an action movie, like a war movie, where you've got this really buff hero and he's shooting his way out of a terrorist compound and he's riding on motorcycles, he's jumping into helicopters, he's like being that hero and overcoming all of the odds and winning. Or we might like to watch like a sports game, so he has to overcome the defense and use his agility and his talent and his strength to shoot out from everybody else and then score that impossible goal. We love this kind of stuff because it really appeals to our masculine impulses. It's like we're sperm basically. All men are basically just sperm, because what does the sperm do? It tries to outswim the millions of other sperm and be that one that overcomes the odds and gets its way to the egg. But guess what? Getting to the egg doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy. Scoring that goal doesn't guarantee lifetime happiness. Shooting all the bad guys, that's not going to help you either. The guy who scores the winning goal, he still has to get up in the morning like everybody else, cook his breakfast, clean his house, find hobbies to entertain himself, make meaningful connections. Life does not end at scoring that goal. Winning that sports match doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be happy forever. That's just a delusion. It's a trick that your biology plays on you, making you think that all you need to do is get to that endpoint and win and overcome, and then everything will be good. But that's not how life works. It's actually men's version of happy ever after. Like if you ask a woman, well, what's your happy ever after? Oh, once I meet the man of my dreams, then I'm going to be happy forever. We just ride off into the sunset. And she doesn't think beyond just finding that man. Well, men, we have our own version, and it's that scoring the goal. Once I get there, then yes, that's all I'm interested in. Then it's just happiness forever. No, that is absolutely not how it works. It's a terrible model for self-growth and happiness. And this is why I don't admire those pickup artist guys that just keep sleeping with more and more women, because they're stuck. They're delusional. They've completely given in to that false masculine impulse, which is all about just scoring that goal. They're like, oh, if I can just sleep with that girl and that girl, then I'll be happy. And they're completely deluded, and they make themselves numb and unconscious to the fact that every girl that they sleep with makes them feel more and more rotten about themselves. They think, no, it's not that. I just need more women. I need more novelty, more variety. And so they start engaging in weirder and weirder sex acts, or they start lowering their standards so that they can sleep with more and more women. It's really a disaster. Check out my video on the effect that sleeping with lots of women has on your mindset if you haven't seen that one yet. So I don't admire the player men who sleep with lots of women. The men who earn my I respect are the men who've been with the same partner for decades. They love their wife, they have children, they go to work providing for them. It's not glorious, it's not necessarily heroic in the way that we think of it. It's more steady, it's more calm, it's more reliable. He just shows up every single day being a good guy. Now, I'm not denying that our impulses towards success in war or sport, that those aren't masculine. They are, but there's an underappreciation of the masculinity that's more rock solid, that's more steady, that's more calm. To me, that's actually the more mature masculine, the more evolved masculine. It's like the difference between a boy and a man. Have you ever heard that saying that you shouldn't tell somebody that you love that you're willing to die for them? Tell them that you're willing to live for them. To die for them is just going out in a blaze of glory, and it's easy, it's lazy in a sense, but to actually show up every single day, to put in that effort, to work that hard, that's what requires real courage. And why this is all relevant to your self-growth and your happiness is that you need to understand that the immature boy idea of masculinity is not sustainable and it does not work. If you want to be really happy, you have to take the mature masculine approach. There are some outliers, I will acknowledge that, but for most guys, real growth is slow, deliberate, constant, consistent effort. And that scares some guys. Because they think, well, I'm not up to that task. I've got low self-esteem. I'm not as smart. I'm not as strong. I'm not as talented. If I just work really hard, who's to say I'm going to get anywhere? And that sucks. Like, I want to be happy. I want to be successful. Self-growth, the slow, deliberate way, requires a lot of emotional courage. And if you don't have that, then you're going to start to look for a shortcut. You're going to start to look for a way to cheat the system. And that is what the appeal is behind scoring that goal or having a victory in some battle in a war somewhere. It's easier. It's just this one-time thing. If you can just succeed that once and everything's going to be good forever, you're going to be happy in the long term. It's just a complete delusion. Real happiness is harder to achieve than that. It's more effort. Like, for some guys, they think that all they need to do to be happy is to get a girlfriend, which is complete nonsense. I made a video about that. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But I'm telling you, for you young guys listening to this who are really serious about being the best possible version of yourself, of actually growing into the kind of man that you admire right now, someone who's genuinely happy, you have to be highly suspicious of your own masculinity, because that desire to find the shortcut, to cheat, to just sleep with that one girl, to score that one goal, that exists inside your mind, but it's a biological trick. It's to do with reproduction. It's not actually real. But there are plenty of smart people who've figured out how to scam you, how to trick you into thinking that that's all it takes, how to manipulate you, and they're just trying to steal your money, essentially. I'm thinking of like scam artists who want to sell you some get-rich-quick scheme, invest in this crypto or this NFT or whatever it is, just trust us, and then you'll be set for life. It's appealing because it has that, I'm just going to score that one big goal. And men who really don't feel like they have the skills or capacity to actually make it in an honest way, they're looking out for those kinds of opportunities. It's sort of like the last option of the desperate. And the same goes for like dating coaches or like pickup artists who are always trying to convince you that your worth as a man is measured by the number of women that you slept with, regardless of their quality. Buy my $10,000 course or whatever it is, and I will make you happy, because all you need to be happy is to sleep with this one girl. The reason that it works is because there's part of you that wants to believe that that's true, but it's just not. It's harder than that. It's a lot harder. Happiness is not easy. God, no, it takes sustained effort. It takes integrity over a long period of time. If you want to know how to actually be rich in a guaranteed way, you've got to develop a skill that is in high demand. You've got to work hard over a long period of time, and you've got to be sensible with your money. Don't spend it on stupid shit, and invest it wisely. If you do that, by the end of your life, yes, you will be wealthy. The same goes in romantic relationships. It's not about sleeping with lots of women. It's about finding one genuine, high-quality woman who's worthy of you, and then developing a deep, intense connection, pair bonding, and being there for each other. That's why I always say, if you want to sort out your dating life, you want to sort out relationships, be successful in that area, it doesn't necessarily make sense, apart from, learning a few practical tips and tricks, to be taking advice from men who are still in the player, sleep around with lots of women kind of phase. You want to be talking to older, more established gentlemen who've been married for 20, 30 years and are supremely happy with their wife. What have they learned? Try and replicate that. That kind of happiness doesn't come easy. It requires work, but I promise you, it makes it so much more satisfying when you get there. And high quality men are not afraid of a little bit of effort. They're not afraid to put in the work, knowing that what they're shooting towards is actually going to be worth all of that effort. But the low quality man, the man who's talentless or who has low self-esteem, that idea that he needs to put in a lot of work over a long period of time, that scares him, which is why instead of actually working on himself, he fantasizes about shortcuts. He fantasizes about, cheats. He watches porn and he gets off to his own idea of, oh, happiness is just one more woman away. It's not going to work. And it sucks. I totally understand that it sucks that we have these masculine impulses built into our biology, which convince us that happiness is that easy. But it's just a trick of biology. It's just your genes wanting you to sleep around so that you can pass on your genetic information to the next generation so your genes can live on. With regards to you as an individual happiness, that's totally irrelevant. So you have to rise above that and look deeper at what's actually going on. Interesting follow on from that. Do women appreciate modesty? Is that a virtue in the eyes of women? Does that make you more attractive? A man who's modest, or does she want a man who's confident, arrogant even, someone who's bragging? The answer is a little bit nuanced. They actually do appreciate modesty, but only when it's expressed a certain way. It's quite complex. Anyway, I made a whole video about it. It's the latest video on my Patreon page. So if you want to see that video, please go and sign up to my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription. You get instant access to that video plus every other video in my back catalog. 200 videos at this point. The value is absolutely tremendous. It's a great way of supporting the creator. We have an amazing community, great discussions over there. I'd love to see you over there so you can be a part of it.